Hey, like my background, this is actually one of my units. Not I deserve no credit for this other than buying it smart. There was an old church in Lancaster built in 1910, and there's two universities there. There's Franklin and Marshall, F&M, and then there's Millersville. The head of the architecture department in Millersville bought this and turned it into a four unit, a quad, like really, really nice apartments. But he kept a lot of the architectural features because he was an architectural geek. And then unfortunately his wife got cancer and he decided to sell it and I bought it because nobody else, no, none of the conventional mortgage companies would touch it because they said we can't get a qual on a converted church, even though it's a four. So you have to do commercial funding and that's what I got. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I love the brick.
It's dude, like, so you know how like in our area, like you have to have if you modify a unit, you have to have a certain R level on the insulation on the outside walls.
Uh,
Like I have a townhome and I was like, hey, there's no one, like I have an exposed brick wall and they're like, oh no, that's a townhome, so the other side is an internal, so it's not a big deal. But the brick walls here are 27 inches thick. Apparently that covers the insulation requirement. So
I would think so. Did they
yeah.
give you an R rating for those for that thickness?
No, I never asked. I mean, I didn't do the mods, so I don't deserve the credit, but I find it impressive, right? And so here's the scary part. There are windows that are 11 feet tall and 36 inches wide. It's a 15 grand window. There's like 32 of them. So I tell my tenants, I'm like, if you break a window, you know, I'm gonna take your car, right? So.
Yeah. Are those well in your area? I don't imagine they would need to be triple insulated, but is that a thing there?
No, they're double, but just the size, like
Hmm.
and we're Pella, which is, I mean, a good window, not a crazy expensive window like Anderson. It's like 15 grand, right? So
Wow.
that's my one A minus unit, so class A minus unit.
Hmm.
But it's a cash flow. It's a beast. It's a monster. It's awesome.
Nice. That's great. It's good to see everybody. Wayne, I'm surprised to see you. It's been a while. You're doing well, I hope. Okay, that's okay. I had actually gotten a little bit of, I don't know if you'd call it advice, but we were going to try if anybody has any questions or anything to maybe put them up in the chat and we'll see about getting to everybody's questions if there are any. And if you can't do that, feel free just to jump on in like usual. Um, I think I was just giving Mark a rough time because he's having something at 8 o'clock Pacific. I think it's with Jared and Pat, but so we might end up being a little bit shorter this evening. But so if you have questions, go ahead and pop them in.
Frank, I feel like every time we or Zuber or Matt say we're gonna get done early, we never get done early.
Yeah. You know, I don't know how long the streak's been going, but we've been like 3 hours forever, and it's fine because, well, you were in Matt's course
I'm in
too.
my I'm in my fourth Matt boot camp. We've never done more than less than 245. So
No, yeah, I believe it. Does anyone have any questions to start us off with this evening?
Anybody watch the second interview with Bigger Pockets CEO?
not yet.
I saw that one today. Yeah, I thought that was good.
Any key takeaways?
Yeah, to evaluate the sold as part of Zuber's evaluation for markets. Um, you,
Yeah,
and
I thought that was.
I only heard it once. I was at work, so I wanted to go back and redo it. And I just got off work, so
Yeah, no, yeah, they were talking about doing their buy box and how you look for properties that have sold recently and things like that. But Scott had mentioned actually looking for things. Well, that's what he said, right? He said looking at recently sold to give you a better idea what things were actually going for at the time. So that was really cool. I wonder if I know Zuber has a history uh, of disliking things that Bigger Pockets was doing, but now he talked to Brandon. He's talking to Scott. I wonder if he'll end up being a speaker again at one of the BP cons. Dion mentioned that he's going to be there this year. In October, he'll be speaking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bigger Pockets basically imploded and fired all their speakers, so it's kind of a reset, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how much the tickets are. I know last time I looked, they were probably a couple thousand, but I don't know if they've gone up since then.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I told Dion I can't afford to go to the BP con, but I'll hang out and wait for him when he's done.
Yeah.
Anybody working on anything new?
We haven't been. I've been struggling trying to get yeah, Wayne, Dion is speaking at the next BP con. That's October 5th through 7th, I believe. But we've been struggling, or I've been struggling, trying to get a HELOC on an investment property that we have in St. Louis. We bought it cash, but it was only like a $70,000 property. So part of the challenge was the low, I guess, loan amount. We did find some lenders, but the interest rates were really crazy. They were like 9.5%, and we were going to be pulling around 50,000 out. So right now, I think we're close to the finish line, but we're actually going to do a cash out refinance because we had a bunch of repairs in 2024, and I need to, get some of that money back so we have a little bit of reserves.
Frank, how
And
small was the loan? You said it was small. Like, what's defined
yeah,
small?
it's going to be 50,000 for us.
Hmm.
So we,
So
um,
meaning 90, you're gonna take 40 out, so 50 net, or that's
no, the property value is 70. So
oh
we'll be
wow.
pulling out like, what is that, 70% or something.
Okay.
So borrowing or putting a loan on it for 50. And that one looks like it'll be at 7.5%. It's a 30-year fixed, but all the we're doing we were going through the process with Better Mortgage also, and the interest rates for the HELOCs were like 9.5%. The one through Better was adjustable though, and I didn't like that. So we probably won't go that way, but we've been jumping through hoops for a couple of months now.
Frank, there's no way you could like, and I don't know the baseline lending debt situation, but like there's no way you could like pay it back and then do one of these DSCR loans at 5.8, right?
No, the loan amount is an issue there because I think those that you're talking about, they had a minimum loan amount of 150, I think.
100. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 150 on the latest one.
I'd
And
say Frank, if you are ever going to take a loan at 9, call me. I will give it to you for 8.9.
okay, that sounds good. I yeah, and one of the lenders did have a DSCR HELOC, but that was 9.5%, and the fees were crazy. The
Mm.
fees were going to be like $9,000. So that was not acceptable. That's what we've been struggling through lately, along with having the 3 vacant units in St. Louis. One of
Really?
them, yeah, one of them's been on the market for 60 days now. The 2 bedroom,
Wow.
1 bath.
That's a lot.
And yeah,
You
it's a long
finished?
time. We did a little bit of rehab to it. It didn't need much, a little bit of cosmetic stuff. Um, that's the one
B,
that
B minus, C plus, B plus. What's the neighborhood?
uh, C could be a little closer to C minus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And where are you advertising? Sorry, I just the marketing thing's been a big focus of us for last year. We're trying to get our time on market down to less than 20 days. Where are you advertising?
Yeah, I asked them that question. So obviously it's on Zillow,
Oh, you're the
but
PM.
we have a property manager. And they sent me a list of like 30 different places that they advertise on, and we're making it available for Section 8 tenants as well. Um,
Mm.
so I'm hoping it was just a winter thing now that,
Yeah.
weather's
Can I
getting
offer a humble thought?
Yeah, of course.
So I benchmarked this, right? So I'm a Hamlin fan, and I mistakenly challenged Matt a little bit on that last week, and he poked me, but it was good. It was all good. Um, when I get bigger, Door Loop makes a ton of sense. But like here's the stats that I use, right? I advertise in Hemlane. Hemlane advertises everywhere, like Redfin and apartments and rental.com and all that crap, right? 48 hours later, I have 9 leads, right? Zillow charges Hemlane 60, $70 a month. And I only need 1 month, so it's not a big deal, right? So I'll pay that. That's fine. That's an easy transit rental cost. Um, I flip that switch. In another 24 or 48 hours, I have 22 leads, right?
Hmm.
I cut and paste the link to Zillow, the description, the pictures. I post it in Facebook Marketplace. 48 hours later, I have between 60 and 100 leads. So if you're not posting on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm in Philly, I mean it's not New York or San Fran, but like it's a 2+1- market, right?
Hmm.
Like if this isn't getting posted on Marketplace, you are missing the largest marketing avenue you have. And I would kick your program manager, your PM in the testicles and say, guys, get your shit together and like get your advertising strapped. Because if you're just advertising in the main, that's lazy. That's just freaking lazy.
Chris, what's your experience been with the conversion from lead to view to visits or applications on Facebook
Yeah.
Marketplace?
Let me lead the witness. I also did Craigslist. That was not a great conversion. I won't even talk about it. It's all good. Um, I would say, Jeffrey, I don't know that I tracked the metrics as tight, so shame on me, but it was better than I expected. Like most of my leads came from, let's call it 60 to 70% probably came through Marketplace. And I was super clear on the ad. I was like, if I will not, I'm only interested 680 credit score and above, 3x income to rent ratio, no evictions, no smoking. And good news, I would say 90% of the 80% of the tenants actually hit that target. There were some gray areas like, hey, I'm a waitress. I earn 70, but my reportable income is this, and I got some. But I would say it was better than I expect. It was better than 50%.
Did you run an ad or did you just list it? I mean, did you spend any money?
No, I tried
The
doing
free
the
listing.
advertising promotion on one. Shame on me, Jeffrey. I wasn't super scientific. I didn't really track the performance. Um, it seemed to do a little better, but I haven't really delved into that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting a lot of leads on Facebook Marketplace as well. Um, Depending on the listing, I'll get, I don't know, over a 30-day period, I could get hundreds probably,
I
but definitely
totally.
more than 100.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I'm getting, I mean, huge compared to the others, compared to every other channel, huge numbers. And
yep.
the only thing I the only the two things I would suggest is I do run it through. The link I actually post on there, I say, hey, look, don't message me through Facebook because I won't respond, right? You either got to go to Zillow because Zillow goes to Hemlane, or here's the Hemlane link, and then that requests it. And Hemlane does a pre-screen, basically saying, hey, glad you're interested in the unit. Just answer these 3 questions, and about half of them do. And it's like credit score, income to rent ratio, no evictions, no, and for me personally, like no smoking. And only half of the folks answer that. But I also now this is where I'm going to deviate from Frank, right? Because Frank doesn't want to get freaking flyer miles to St. Louis. But I don't do individual showings. I only do after a couple of years, I do a Saturday showing, Saturday morning. And some people legitimately say, hey, like, I work Saturday morning. I'm like, hey, I totally get it. If it doesn't rent after the Saturday morning showing, I will do something like Thursday 5 to 7 the following week. Um, and I'll let you know. And that has been crazy successful for me in the last 2 years, renting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 10 units, right? That because I don't have a ton of turnover. I have 30 right now. I have 27 residential, 3 commercial, but so it's been really successful for me. But
So you
anyway,
can
just
say with great certainty that you've gotten a good number of applicants straight from Facebook
oh,
Marketplace.
I can say without a doubt, statistically, from an engineering perspective, like if you're not advertising at Facebook, you're missing the effing bus, right?
Yeah.
You're missing 80% of your pool. I
Yeah, I
think
haven't had great conversion. That's why I asked. I haven't had great conversion from Marketplace to actual applications.
mm,
With like hundreds of leads, I don't know that I have been able to track much of anything in terms of actual applicants on Zillow. Um,
yeah, it's
but
hard.
but this recent one I've been telling you all about, which is a Section 8, um, I don't know. I mean, what I think the difference was going on was actually going on Section 8 Facebook groups for my city and
No, that's
posting
interesting.
the marketplace listing on those Section 8 Facebook groups,
Mm,
because then I would get messages from my marketplace listing
yeah.
that are specifically voucher holders because
Okay.
they're on those Facebook groups. That I've definitely gotten applicants from that, specifically Section 8 applicants. So
Okay.
that worked for me, I think.
Yeah, Jeffrey, I'll be honest. I can't speak at all. Section 8. I actually gotten a few folks who reached out like, "Hey, will you take a voucher?" And I'm like, "Hey, I'm just not set up for that now. Maybe next year, but I'm not there now." But I would say, look, I think if you want the volume of applicants, and you want the visibility and the eyeballs, you got to go to Facebook Marketplace. And
Yeah, I
frankly,
mean, I do it just for the volume. I don't, I'm not saying I don't care about the conversion. It is a
yeah, yeah,
concern, but it's like if I get 150, DMs from
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah.
marketplace listing, I'm like, I'm going to respond to all of them. I'm going to tell them to go to Zillow because it's like that's 150 eyeballs that
Yeah.
didn't see the Zillow listing. It's like one or two. I mean, that could be a renter. So
Yeah.
I would feel negligent not at
Yeah.
least giving it a try.
The only things I would say, and I don't follow Matt's approach because Matt basically pre-qualifies people to go to the open house. I don't do that. I don't have the patience for that. So I, my approach has been Facebook, all the sites which I get for free from Hemlane, and then Zillow I pay, but I think it's a worthy investment, and then Facebook Marketplace. And then I over rotate in all the ads, and I'm happy to send you guys an example of my ads, like to you know to over rotate on the requirements. Hemlane will try and pre-screen, but most people ignore that. But then I do the open house and meet the people, and they ask questions, and then they'll email after like, hey, like I'm not actually 690 or 680. I'm more like 610. Would you take that? And I'm just like, I can't. And then I selectively invite people into the hem. Once I get a couple of people interested. I'm like, hey, if you want to go through the credit and background check, if you are accepted, I'll reimburse you, so it's no cost to you if you're accepted. And that's been really successful for me, right? You're balancing the risk of, you know, and you're leveraging all the marketing channels. Not saying it's perfect, but it's been really good for me.
Hopefully it's a winter thing, Frank, like you said. I mean, it is still February, so you can
And
get
and
on board
Jeffrey,
for
for the
that.
record, like I think the term is cycle time, right? My cycle time for renting in May, June, July, August is measured in days or weeks. My cycle time for renting like late September through March is measured in months, right? If I don't rent in my market after like the mid-September, it could take me 2 or 3 months to rent. If I put something in the market in May through August, like it's 3 to 10 days for me to get somebody in the unit, get a candidate kind of locked down. So I would, I mean, unless you're in Florida, I would, even then I think I would totally think it's reasonable.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Because they've had to do snow removal a couple of times. It's been probably 3 weeks apart for that. All those little things add up, though. It was, I think, $115 or something to go in and do snow removal. And um, the first time they did it, and then there was a snowstorm the next day. So I asked them to keep an eye on the weather. There was another little storm coming through, so we waited this time. But um,
Hey
they,
Frank, can I offer a minor note?
yeah,
So I've had units in Lancaster for 4 years, never had an issue. And I'll be honest, the last couple of winters have been mild, but I'm noticing, like, when the city budgets get a little tight, suddenly there's a lot more parking tickets. I started to get citations for we didn't clear the snow, and I'm like, we cleared the snow. It's just interesting, like, I think the city budgets are getting tight, and they're getting a little tighter on like harvesting costs, snow removal. I got my first, like, your weeds were more than 4 inches high,
Mhm.
$25 fine. I mean, so, like, I think the townships are getting more aggressive on fees. So anyway, just a minor side note.
Yeah, I think we like on our duplex in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee specifically, we got a notice that the tenants didn't pull in their trash bins soon enough.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
little things
exactly.
like that. We're learning all kinds of stuff this year. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad to see everybody here. I was wondering, Amelia, if you don't mind, have you been here with us before?
No, I haven't been on here before. I usually go to the women's weekly accountability group.
Oh, great. Yeah. I was trying to sneak in there. They keep kicking me out, but I think there's a lot of great investors in that group and I want to learn. Um, but here, we're really informal. Welcome, by the way, and we're glad to see you. If you have any questions or anything, just jump in. There's a lot of great people in here uh, from
Yeah.
different places. Yeah, Washington State. Mark's from Hawaii. Pat is in California with me. My wife Cynthia and I are in California on the Central Coast near Santa Cruz. Chris is in Pennsylvania. Jeffrey's in Florida. Charles, remind me.
Illinois.
Illinois. Thank you. Sorry. Um, Matesh. Matesh, where are you?
Oh, you forgot Anaheim, California.
Oh, there you go. I knew you were close. So yeah, people from all over, and hopefully, if you have any questions, there will be some great suggestions.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me on here. And yeah, I'm just kind of being a fly on the wall, seeing how you guys run things and
Okay.
trying to learn from you because I hear you mentioned a lot by Zuber.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
And
you can
Mia,
pay attention to everyone except the financial firefighter. He's on the outs. We keep trying to block him, and he keeps making his way in here. So,
Uh-oh.
um, but
Oh,
yeah,
Did I see Trey? Charles is actually showing his face. I thought you were like Mr. Wilson, I heard from Home Improvement.
that is very true. Um, but I don't think that will work in this environment.
yeah, no, I love to see you guys on camera. Um,
Any ideas on how to drive traffic towards older renters? I'm looking for fixed income folks that don't bounce around much in your advertising. And this is at best C property.
let's see. I think I don't myself. I think that would be a great question for Dion. You go on with him on Tuesdays, right?
It's hard to catch that time. 10
Okay.
a.m. is a booger half the month. Because I'm at work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he comes on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. So I guess
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be 7 p.m. for
6.
you? Or 6?
6. Yeah. No, that would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, he does that for like an hour and a half at least, usually on Tuesdays. And then he also has his members only meetings, sometimes after that, where we kind of jump on with him. He'll go through deals and talk about different things, just like you're asking. But I would definitely ask him on one of his lives. I'll probably be seeing him. I think I'll be seeing him Friday, so I'll try to remember that, and we'll try to get you some suggestions.
Jeffrey, how do you target your Facebook market?
I literally just put a listing, copy and paste from my Zillow listing.
Okay.
Same pictures, same requirement, just copy paste to the best of my ability. And then, like I said, like the only other little hack is my metro area. I try to make sure that I'm a member of all the local Facebook groups for rentals, Section 8, real estate, whatever. I think my assistant calls it Swip Swap. Like they've got these, like, are you trying, like garage sales style groups and whatnot. So metro areas have all these kind of, I mean, they've got, I don't know, we got like 1 million people in Greater Jacksonville, and I don't know, there's easily a couple hundred of those groups that I've been able to at least find or rub elbows with. So I just join them all, and then I just grind. Like I think in the listing itself, you can say share. You can hit a share button, and then it says where do you want to share it, and then one of the options is do you want to share it with a Facebook group or do you want to share it on a group? And I'll click that, and then it just gives you all the list of like all the Facebook groups that you're on. And then you just go to, I just go to each one and I'm just like share, 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 share. And it takes a bunch of time, but, once or twice in a listing over a period of a couple weeks, let's say, I get all that, all that publicity on those different groups. I think like I said, I think I mentioned like the most success I've had is with those Section 8 groups, because those guys definitely go on Facebook groups to see what's what. But yeah, that's the only kind of extra thing that I do with my marketplace listings, and they all DM me. Like I'll literally when I publish one of those listings, I'll get 10, 20 DMs in a couple days. And then after that, it'll be a trickle of, let's say, depending on the listing, depending on what the unit is, anywhere between 1 to 3 per day or maybe more. And then I have a copy paste like on my Messenger account. I just go to the last one I responded to, and it's just got a kind of a, it's a just a typical cookie cutter response. And I just copy that, and then I go for the new people who have inquired, and I just paste that response in, unless there's any specific questions, which is very seldom. Usually it's pretty generic. And that response just says, yes, it's available, and would you like to see the listing? It's on Zillow. You can apply on Zillow. Any questions, let me know. Goodbye. And so for each DM, it's like a couple seconds. It still adds up. I mean, there's no doubt it's a bit of a time suck. But being that it's only incremental, maybe it's like a couple minutes a day, 3 to 5 minutes a day, you can spread it out over the period when your listing is live. And, it's like the sand or the water around the big rocks, and it just kind of like get it done. It's also something that's simple enough that eventually I would probably hand that task off to my admin. So it's definitely something, if you have an assistant, that they could do, because it's pretty brain dead simple with some bullets and some step-by-step actions. I just haven't done that yet because it's still pretty new for me, last year or so.
We're definitely focusing on the brain dead activities right now. Chris, do you have the same approach to your commercials, and what type of commercial property?
I will tell you right now, I've been a moron around my commercial experience. I got into it totally underestimated. I have one duplex, top bottom, that used to have a chiropractic office on the bottom floor. We're renovating that unit, so I don't have any experience. I bought one unit that was a house that was built in 1910, really solid asset. And it had a garage, an external garage. It was converted into a triplex, and the garage over time evolved from a garage to a mechanic shop to a candy shop to a restaurant to a 200-person catering hall. I bought that. That was my second property over COVID, only because nobody else could get it because it had a commercial. Therefore, you needed a commercial loan. So, um, but I bought that one because the triplex covers the net. So there's no we spent 150 grand finishing the catering hall into a really nice know a really nice catering hall. But last year I got enamored with two residential units in the same town, a triplex and a single family home by the same owner. I tried to do a portfolio deal. She said, "Oh, I have a third unit. It's a house, a beautiful house, two houses that were eventually merged into a high-end spa, 6,000 foot hair, go to get your hair, your nails, your other stuff." She put her heart and soul into this. It's beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. She wanted 3.9 million for the three properties. I got them down to 1.5 for all three. I got it. I got an appraisal. But the difference in this one is that if I didn't rent the commercial, it was an alligator, right? I was putting in 2,500 a month for the last. I thought it would be 3 months. It was 10 months. We just got a tenant last month. So, and then on a separate note, I'm buying a business. I'm in the last stages of a SBA loan to buy a business, and now I'm a tenant on the commercial side, and it's a totally different game. You have to have deeper pockets because it could take 3, 7, 10, 24 months to rent the stuff. Now you're going to get a tenant who may stay 10 years, right? But um, it's triple net, so it's pretty much once you get there, it's a profit game. But then there's this little sneaky thing called TI, tenant improvement dollars. So I'll give you three examples, right? I have a friend who she's a friend from high school. She started a hair salon in a little strip mall, a nice area. Um, she leased the unit. It's probably not more than, I don't know, 700, 800 square feet. The landlord gave her $50,000 in tenant improvement dollars. And I said, "Oh, it's interesting. What did you use those dollars for?" "Well, I had to fix the heating system. I had to fix the locks. I had to I had to do all the interior finishes to make it look like a nice hair salon." And so I'm like, "Well, how much of that was just getting the unit livable versus making it finishing it, right?" It was probably 50-50. And I'm like, so on this commercial unit I have, I'm like, the unit's beautiful. Everything works. The heating system, it's all pristine. If you want the wall colors to be a different color because you don't like this shade of gray, yeah, that's on you, right? So I I had to offer 10K. But on this business we're buying, just to put this in perspective, um, annual rents on this building, and this is a former Rite Aid, are going to be 200K a year. When I'm buying this unit, I'm getting $350,000 in TI dollars back from the landlord. So it is, I would just say it's a very different game. It's a much longer time frame. You got to have deeper pockets, more patience. It can be more profitable, I think. But I'll be honest, it's kicked my ass over the last year. I was crushing it on my residential units are good. Cash and Clash is great. I understand the game. I understand how to get tenants. I understand how to manage them. The commercial stuff is a very different game. So I would encourage you not to learn from my many, many, many mistakes. So
A long time ago, I had a swimming pool business, and we started with building above ground pools.
cool.
The simple thing from going from above grounds to in grounds was a 2-year learning process, even though I'd done quite a bit of in ground work. I get it. So I was just kind of curious if the activities were any different. I've got one more question if we got time.
Mhm.
Your names and visibilities here, I assume you keep that different and distinct from what your tenants can see or find in your normal advertising thing. So they shouldn't, I don't know if they need to consume this information.
For Frank, for me, for all of us,
Well, however, just general ideas.
Frank, how do you want to handle this? I got a
We
perspective, but
Yeah, we don't really do anything. All of our stuff is managed by property managers. So I think
Okay.
there's a little bit of a buffer there.
I'm managing 25 of my 30 units. They know my name. I try and run them through Hemlane, which is like a software equivalent of PM system, but some of them have tracked down my personal cell and text me. Um, and I direct them to my kind of, property, our kind of, work cell. Um, the guy I don't understand is Matt, because Matt went to great lengths to hide his identity for the longest time, but now, if you can find his real name. So I don't know how that'll impact him. I think long term it's hard to keep your identity totally silent unless you have a PM. My PMs, the 1 unit, the 1.5 unit where we have PMs, like they don't know me from Adam, right? And that's fine. The problem is the PM is, I know I'm losing money with them, right? I know I could probably get another 2 to 4 points of cash on cash if I got rid of them. It's just I haven't gotten around to it yet, but it's on my agenda. I think where it gets really tricky is if you ever have an issue, the liability side, because even if you have an LLC, but they know your personal name, I don't know what happens if the business is owned by an LLC, your asset, but if they name you personally on the suit, like I don't know how that plays out. I'm sure it'll get sorted out, but that's the only case that worries me.
Well, I would imagine it's with whoever the contract is until they can break the contract or pierce
Yeah.
the LLC. So,
Yeah.
And I'm doing my best to try to set the structure up because we've only got 3 properties right now. And just trying to set it up so it can expand because I need to be at probably around the number of profitable properties that you have, but in a much lower market to be at the cash flow I want.
Yeah. What's your cash on cash target?
Quite simply, I got 100,000 in cash I want to put into something to get as close to 25 to 30 rentals as I can.
What's your outcome you're looking for? I mean, I know that the mechanism is how many houses, but you could do that with 4 high end or, 25 low end. Example, my 2 objectives are I want assets that may not start at 10% cash on cash, but I think I can get them to 8 to 12% cash on cash. But my ultimate goal is I left a company that had a pension. So my goal was to create like a 125 grand pension. Originally, it's evolved, but 125 grand a year pension, right? Cash on cash flow, right? Like, what's your goal in those perspectives?
Um, it's kind of comparing it to what I can do in cash value right now. If we liquidated everything except for the very, very minimums, at 10% a year, I could do 60,000 a year.
Cool.
And I don't think that's good enough. But at the
Good
same
start,
time,
though.
well, we're sheltering a lot of that. A lot of that's not up for exposure. The other side of this is, from my experience, it's easier to double something smaller than it is to try to double something big. So, and with my current job, half of my life, I've got no job. I'm on call 2 weeks and I'm home 2 weeks. And from the building experience, from digging the holes to pouring the basements to roofing, plumbing, electrical, I'll tackle the stuff I can, but quite honestly, I'm looking at 12% on cheap loans via contract for deed, and the ones contract for deeding the ones I don't like And the ones I do, and I'm targeting the older fixed income that don't move around a whole lot.
Not a bad strategy.
So, but because either we are real high end or we are real low end.
Hmm.
And the stuff that, well, I just bought a duplex for 29,000.
Got it.
That I think on the low end will go for I'll clear 800 a month.
Wow. What market is that?
Just it's a rural area north of Peoria. I'm not looking for anything big. This is all in my backyard.
Cool.
And I'm just repositioning things. So I don't have I'm not savvy enough with a spreadsheet. You have to know where I'm at. We had houses when I was a kid, and you've seen the tenants come and go. You made the decisions if I like somebody on the way in or if I don't, and how they played out. I know the market has changed, but those houses still exist, and they're not that much more than when we originally owned them. And there was like a dozen on top of farms and other activity. So I'm kind of going back to the basic playbook and see what happens. And we kind of, outside this duplex, we had too many properties and all of them had acreage. So I'm trying to gain the best I can and limit how much I'm spending.
Hmm.
So just trying to maximize the position until I decide if I want to be in Illinois or not.
Cool.
So kids in high school and college and kind of slow roll. And I know you guys are, especially on the West Coast, the pressures out there to find good deals take so much money to make things happen.
Yeah, it does. And that's why I work with a lot of agents and other people in real estate. And even with all them looking around for us, it was hard to do anything here. So we ended up going to the Midwest for that reason. And it's definitely has its challenges, but I think things will work out better there for us than they would have here.
A realtor investor gal that went to school with my wife, so they're high school friends, was able to go, here's your property manager, here's the areas, here's the zip codes. This is what works, this is what doesn't. And hey, we got 2 or 6 houses or 6 doors, 3 triples or 2 triples for 262. And on the I think it's in Tazewell County. And I'm like, I shot her a smart ass offer. And she says, no, they won't do that. And I'm like, I know that area, and it's too much money for what the probabilities of it being empty too often are. So I'm trying to take the handyman skills, from as a mechanic and moving forward with things. This money was all supposed to be wrapped up in a farm, and things changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to pick my way through this and dumping a pretty good sized amount of money into the stock market even though it's pretty good, it's still incredibly hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I stuck a bunch in CDs last week.
Please just don't put it in Bitcoin.
Don't
get talked into that.
So there's one thing when you stick a nickel in and you pull the handle, I get it. And that nickel is a different value to each one of us. I feel like I'm playing with the money that came from my great grandpa coming down. And it's not quite all that. I mean, a lot of this is mine, but the responsibility of closing a trust for my sisters and trying to make good decisions in the process, it just weighs on you through it. And you want to enjoy your life. And here's the God's honest truth. I can live incredibly cheap. I got enough money that I would never need to touch Social Security. And probably if I lived as long as my dad, I would never run out of money. But I'd rather serve somebody, the community, my family. I'd rather serve. It takes some work, but I don't want to be stupid in the process.
Where can this group help you the most? Like deal identification, evaluation, maintenance, negotiations, financing.
Well, we're going to have to definitely look at financing because there's a bunch of, if I got a couple properties to stabilize. The VA loans, I've never used my certificate. I'm in a pretty good spot, credit wise and income wise. That once I feel better, kind of understanding left, right, center, and then the loan process, I'd rather reserve that opportunity for a bigger stroke, either the right piece of land with house in the right area, or a fourplex. So, and after running a business that absolutely ran me for 15 years, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed a lot of it. I also realized in my mid-50s that, nope, we're not doing that again. So it's these, you pick things up on the way through. And my goal, we're all kind of, I said this yesterday or the day before, we're all looking for control, how to control our life. And that's why we're doing this versus playing the stock market. We've all got the discipline. We've all got the dream. We kind of know where we're going. And we see this as a way to make more consistent money. Housing values have gone up like 4% over the years. So's ground from 1970 to last year. The average increase in an acre has been 4% a year. And ground might give you in rents 1% to 2% return annually on your overall money. So that 1% a door type of thing. Well, $1 million may give you 30,000, 25,000 in revenue, but you still get your appreciation off of it. So, but you're still tying up and that's $1 million's only an 80 typically. So what Jason bought in Bakersfield is the standard price for an 80 of production ground of well, they call it a PI, production index, of 140 and above in Illinois and Iowa. Now, all it takes is two people to be wanting that piece of ground, and it goes from 14,000 an acre to 20 and 30, depending on where it's located. Totally different thing, but just a little bit of knowledge out there. So anyway, now that I feel like I monopolized.
No, that's okay. So when you were talking about older tenants, fixed income type thing, are you talking actually like senior citizen
Yes.
age, or okay?
Yeah.
Jack had sent me a comment about going to places like actually where seniors gather,
That's why I was asking the
have
advertising
meals, play
questions.
cards and things like that. Yeah, that sounds like a good suggestion.
Yeah, churches, food banks, bingo halls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just kind of making it known and reaching the daughters and granddaughters of those folks, because oftentimes they've got money. It's the stress of getting older with few options. It's amazing as I watch my mother-in-law get older. One of my best friends got injured 20 years ago, and he's approaching 60 now, but you just watch that scarcity mindset rule them, because they don't want to lose what they've got, but they have lives that are stuck on zero. The bank account's almost always, zero, never negative, and as reliable as the day is long. I would rather give them the break and give them better, as good as I can make the property reasonable. If it's wider sidewalks, bigger doors, more comfortable, I'd rather put a little more money into it and keep it a little bit cheaper than it can actually bring, and have them kind of waiting for the openings. And this is also in a county that doesn't take Section 8. So, and then there's another county that does, and yeah, so.
Yeah, it sounds like things are a bit different out there for you where you're investing. I'm
in a weird situation, Frank. It's just kind of, I mean, it's definitely not bad. But it's something you don't want to get, you just want to use a lot of caution. You want to think it through. And quite honestly, learn it from you guys that are after it. And the mentalities that I got from Vegas this year were the frugal gay took his confidence that he could turn something so small, something he's interested in, into money. And he always had that foresight, even though he didn't have large income. And where, like a guy like me that with a lot of skill set, I never worry about having a job. I never worry, you make friends, and quite honestly, I've learned to be the happy or likable, teachable new guy.
Yeah, there was a lot of value we made it to the first one. We're hoping to make it to the next one, but just all the people we met, all the different areas. I was going to ask Amelia if you're still there, not to pick on you, but I didn't get to ask you where you're at and where you invest.
Yeah, sorry about that. I use Teams for work, so I get Zoom controls mixed all the time.
That's okay.
But I'm in Newberg, Oregon, which is about an hour outside of Portland, Oregon. Which it's a hard market to be investing in. Definitely, the West Coast is pretty expensive. But my husband and I own one duplex in addition to our primary residence.
And it's there in Oregon as well?
Yes, yeah, both are in Newberg, which is so most of Oregon. There's specific counties that are pretty tenant friendly, and some that are neutral. So we live in Yamhill County, which is it has laws and regulations that are more standard to the rest of the country, and not like the landlord laws in Portland, Oregon.
And how long have you had that?
So our duplex we've had for about 2 years. We house hacked it, so we lived in one side, rented out the other, and then we just bought this house about 6 months ago.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's a few other people from the group up there I think near you. Doesn't Jared lives up in Oregon as well?
Yeah. Jared actually he lives pretty close to where I work. So we've been meaning to meet up at some point. I met Max as well. And he's close by as well.
Oh, very cool. It's been a while since we've seen some of you guys. Hi, CJ, Brett. Brett, are you working? He probably is. Oh.
Yep, I'm working.
Good to see you.
Nice seeing you. Not everyone. Maybe not that one guy that we
Yeah,
don't talk about.
yeah. No, we were talking about him. We know you're our favorite firefighter.
There
He
we
knows
go.
that. He knows that. Um, let's see. Anybody else have any questions or concerns? I think Esther had some questions. I was going to ask her who she was directing them to, but she was asking if you post on Marketplace Business. Who was that for, Esther
Oh, it was Chris,
or
Yeah,
Chris?
I
but
wasn't
Chris
even
hasn't.
I wasn't even
Yeah.
aware there was a Facebook Marketplace business, but I'd love to try that. Right?
So you just listed on the regular marketplace.
No, that's a great call. I've not done that. Shame on me, but that'll be something we'll try. It's a great marketing channel, right? It's the Craigslist of, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So yeah, that's a great idea.
So I thought I heard you listed on Facebook Marketplace.
I listed my residential rentals on uh, Facebook Marketplace, and I tried Facebook briefly. Sorry, I tried Craigslist briefly, but Craigslist either I got no response or I got very crazy people, so I stopped doing that. But I think Facebook is that's the pinnacle right now. That's the best channel I know of in my Philly suburb, Lancaster suburb markets for residential rentals.
So you just posted on regular marketplace, yeah,
Well,
for free.
I posted on Hemlane, and through Hemlane I get like apartments and rent.com, and I get like 20 sites, of which frankly probably 19 of them don't matter. Then I pay another $80 for the 1 month I have it on the market to get on Zillow Rent. And then I copy the Zillow ad and I paste it on Facebook. And that formula has worked really well for me for the last uh, 12 units I had to put in the market. Um, it's obviously easier in summer versus winter to some of the points that were raised, but it's been very effective for me.
Do you get like crazy people or random
When I
people?
dropped Craigslist, the crazy people ratio went down. I still get some. I get some like, hey, I don't meet the income requirement, I don't meet the credit score, but I really want the apartment. And I'm like, that's great. Thanks. Um, but I kind of I over rotate on the requirements, right? Credit, income, evictions, smoking. And then I do an open house. I meet the people and, I get a pretty good sense of them. And then, I say, hey, if you want to, and then, so I use Hemlane, right? That's the platform I use, right? They get to apply on Hemlane and that asks them for their information. It asks them for their income. It asks them to upload some documentation on their income. And that, frankly, just who takes the time to apply, who takes the time to actually upload their pay stub and their, whatever, that screens out like 80% of the crazy people, right? Um,
Mhm.
and then I go through it and I figure out who I want to invite to the next level where, I'm like, hey, I think you could be a great candidate. If your credit score and background check work, we can make this work. Why don't you, I'll invite you to do the background and credit. It'll cost you 29 or whatever, $39. If you get accepted, I'll reimburse you first month's rent. No harm, no foul. If you if you weren't, I mean, the implication is if you weren't truthful and your credit, then, you'll pay the $40 and that's on you. And that's worked really well. I mean, it's been really successful. I think you're kind of letting people self-select out, right? I
Mhm.
have a little bit of an advantage because I'm kind of locally managing. I'm not, and yeah, I will say this, like, I think in general, I'm getting better tenants. Like my property manager, like they only manage five of my, whatever units, and they're turning half of them every year. And I think it's because their tenant selection is cruddy, right? And I'll probably fire them next year when I have time to do that. But but I think you could still do this remotely, right? If you establish a relationship with a local realtor in the market, you say, look, I'm like, it's Matt's strategy. I'm not gonna pay you your agency a half month's rent to fill this unit. So let's just stop, or a month's rent. Let's just stop that right now. But I will pay you, I don't know, $300 to do an open house because I never have to do more than one at most two open houses to kind of get the unit rented, right? And you know, tell me what you think about the people, tell me, direct them to the website. They can go through, have a very strict process. I think you can make it work.
So you
My
use
experience, right?
Hemlin for the screening? Do you use
Sorry, yes, sir.
Hemlin for screening?
Do you use
Do you,
Hemlane for the screening?
I do. It's a three-tier screening. It's they express interest in the unit. It asks them for a pre-qualification, like only around three things, right? Credit score, income, and prior evictions. Most of the people don't even answer that, which is fine. And then I say, hey, and then I announce to those folks, if you've expressed interest, I have an open house. I have an open house. I'd like to do them, but I'm trying to get to a point where I can have my handyman, or I might hire a realtor to do it eventually, but for now I do it. And then they come, they look at the unit, and then and I say, let me know if you're interested. And then if they let me know, then I review all the people who are interested, and then I invite, I pick the best one and I invite them to credit and background screening. And if they pass that, then we're done, right? And if they don't, I go to the next one, right? So,
okay. Thank you.
but look, Matt's not a fan of Hemlane, but more like because Hemlane's more suited for if you got 1 to 20 units, Hemlane's great, I think. If you got more than 20 to 30, 40 units, then you're gonna outgrow them. But I think if you do Hemlane, spend the extra dollars on Zillow and do Facebook. Probably if you did Hemlane and then just did, copy that. So Hemlane actually has their own site. Um, so if you click on, if you build your ad in Hemlane and then it pushes it out to rent.com and apartments.com, you can say view listing and it'll take you to a Hemlane site that has it looks like a Zillow site. It has your whole ad. Cut and paste that link, go to Facebook, move all the pictures, copy the description, say, hey, if you're interested, click this link. It'll take you to Hemlane where you can express interest and enter the screening funnel. And it's worked really well for me.
Do you use their payment processes?
Absolutely.
Good.
With the
And,
exception of my two over 70 tenants who want to mail me checks, and that's fine. But because it's two and not, 30, right? So.
and the 5 properties that are with the PM, are they comparable to what you're self-managing?
Yeah, they're actually amongst the nicer, newer stuff. They're in a little bit of a area that's still gentrifying. So the unit's nice. It's got parking. The building's been nicely finished, but the neighborhood is still kind of coming up. It's like a B minus area, trending towards B. So I think you get a lot of young professionals who, you get a lot of young kids who go in there, they spend a year and they get married, they get a girlfriend, they break up with the spouse, they're going to move. Like, I think some of it's that, but I think the way they're managing it is at least 50% of the turnover, right? So, but no, it's amongst my top quarter in terms of being nice, top tier of being my nicer units. It's not the units. Not the units. It's the management and a little bit of the location, right? The neighborhood's still gentrifying. And I will say I am over concentrated in one bedrooms of my portfolio. I'm probably 70% one bedrooms, which I think is too high. I want to solve that. Because I think one bedrooms in a town like Lancaster, Philly suburbs, you get a lot of people who move in. They're good for a year or two, then they're going to job hop, they're going to get married, they're going to get a dog, want to have a yard. I mean, lots of reasons for them to kind of want to expand. So,
And bedroom count, how much does it affect your cash flow or your returns?
please clarify the question.
3 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom.
Yeah, I'm probably 70% one bedroom. and the balance would be 2 bedrooms. I'm
Okay.
just building my first 4 bedroom, 3/4 bedroom now. Um, so I'll let you know how that goes because that'll be an experiment. Because my hope and my worry is I get a better rent, but I worry it opens me up. None of the units I have now, nobody has kids. I mean, one single mom has a 15-year-old, but like nobody really has kids, right? So I'm experimenting with my first 3/4 bedroom, and that'll be an experiment for me. I don't know. I'm curious how that'll go. So
So question was more driven towards like return on investment, the money you put into a single bedroom versus the money you put into, it's got two or three.
that's a great question. I would tell you that my returns have nothing to do with the bedroom count. My returns have a lot more to do with how well I structured the buy, right? Like my 2 bedrooms, yeah, they're kick ass. But you know why? Because I went after a deal that nobody else touched the market because nobody else could get financing, right? And then meanwhile, I did like a massive value add on a bunch of 1 bedrooms. They're really nice, great neighborhood, other stuff. The returns are okay. I'll get to 10% maybe next year or the year after. Um, and then 2 blocks later, I got a duplex where I'm getting, almost as good a return on the 2 bedroom because I've been cautious. I've been good on raising rents, and I converted one of the units to a furnished unit, and that instead of 1,100, I'm getting 1,900, right? So I think I don't think the bedroom count is the driver. I'm sure there's some factor like, there's some element like, but I don't have the data to be able to decompose that. Sorry, Jason, do you have something? Or Esther?
Might not realize he's off mute.
Hey, Chester.
What's
Oh,
going on?
sorry, I didn't know that. No, I didn't have anything. Thanks.
You guys were talking about property managers and stuff, and I don't think anybody that's on with us tonight is in the St. Louis area, but I think we might still get some value. I had a Zoom meeting with one of my lenders in St. Louis, and he has a couple of people that he works with, one being like a financial advisor, and that used to be in the Florida area that was in construction, had units there, sold them, and has been a financial advisor for like the last 10 years. And the other person is an investor from St. Louis, has 30 or so units, and he's starting a property management company. And I liked what I heard from him. He was talking about the fact that, some property management companies, when they start out small, the surface is really great. And then as they grow, they lose a little bit of control. And his goal is to not let that happen. And he's also, he was from here near where we live in California, but he's been in St. Louis for the last 10 years. And so we're hoping to have them on in, it probably would still be 2 weeks from tonight, but just trying to get some people on here that can bring a little bit more value. So we're looking forward to that.
I can vouch for that, Frank. Like when I inherited this 5 unit, it had a very small PM and they were awesome. I was like, this is going to be turnkey. And then they sold it to a larger PM and they've just been disappointing a week, right?
Yeah. And that, I feel fortunate with the property managers that we have, and you guys have heard me joke about all 5 of them. But one of our friends, Anna, she's not on tonight, but she was talking about her PM. She was really happy with them, and then they sold the company, and things went downhill from there. That's one fear that I have. I really like the people that I'm working with, and if they sell or maybe the property manager that we actually are working with moves or gets fired or something like that.
By the way, Frank, that on the boot camp this past Saturday, like I always wondered, like, what was Matt's? He always had a bone to pick with Hemlane. I never quite understood it. I think there's some minor stuff, but one of the bigger things is he thinks Hemlane is ripe for a acquisition, and he thinks that, that will just whatever pricing and performance, other stuff they have, you're gonna, it's just a matter of time before they get acquired, and then, you may or may not be able to trust the consistency of what they have, and that's a fair concern, right? I'm happy with the service, but that is a risk, right?
Yeah, or maybe it would get even better. I think one of his bones is that because the property management company that he's with collects so much data and he's really into the data.
Yeah.
But Hemlane didn't have that kind of support for him. So
Yeah.
Chris, what indicators, I guess, would or telltale signals do you think that would show or indicate the possibility of Hemlane getting acquired?
My day job is private equity, right? Buying and selling a company. It's twofold, right? One is the sector in general is rolling up. There's just a lot of the competitors. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a sector that, like many, where scale, the ability to scale creates value, right? So if I buy one company at X, another company at Y, and I put them together, I'm a lot better off than just having X plus Y. X plus Y, I can integrate, cut costs, I can drive a lot of value out of that, right? So there's kind of an industry trend going on overall that um oddly enough, at the ORED event, I got an hour with Dana, and then we rode to the airport together, right? So I poked her a little bit in this. I think they're good for a while, but it's a legitimate risk over the next. I think not now, this next year, but maybe year 3 to year 5. Um, and they're trying to defend themselves by growing into different areas, but I don't know that I'm happy. I don't know that I like where they're growing. Like they're trying to compete. They're trying to build a QuickBooks capability. It's not that good. It's not what I need. I won't use it. Um, and also, so the industry's growing, and people are, looking for it. And I think also most companies in the SaaS space, the software as a service space, eventually hit a point where, to compete and to grow, they need capital infusion, right? And they've got good capital investors now, and I think they will for a while. I mean, look, I'm not planning on leaving Hemling, right? I understand the risks, but I'm still staying. I will if I get above 50 or 60 units, I'll probably look at Doorloop because it's just they're better suited for larger investors. But sooner or later they'll run into the well will run dry and they'll need capital and they'll potentially have to either acquire or merge. So it was interesting, like Chester, who's the guy in Phoenix we were just talking about? He's got the rent by room.
Oh, Jared
Jared, yeah,
Oxenbarn.
yeah. So Jared uses what's the software platform he uses?
Oh, doggone it. Uh,
A quirky name, right? I'm spacing on it
Pad
now.
split.
Pad
PadSplit.
Split,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
So you know what Dan told me 12 months ago? PadSplit came to Hemlane and said, "Hey, our property management software sucks. We're really good at the marketing and we're okay at the finance stuff, but our property management stuff sucks. Would you be our property management engine?" And she said, "No." They thought about it for a couple of weeks and they said, we're not ready for that now. Let's talk in a year, right? So
Hmm.
I'm actually more intrigued that Hemlane acquires somebody else, right? I told Dana, I'm like, Dana, I understand a year ago you weren't ready for it, but like I think you should revisit it. And the reason I say that is we're comparing. So Dana is also an investor, which I love about her. And she was
Mhm.
looking at a 14 unit in San Francisco. I think it was like a boarding room. It was rooms, right?
Mhm.
And I don't remember the price, but it was like she was paying, let's just say this. It was a crazy deal, right? And she's like, the economics were amazing. And she's like, we bid on it and somebody else outbid us. So, we kind of lost it. But I said, well, have you thought about what have you kind of looked at the market since then? I think this market is growing as affordability has gotten harder. And she said, no, but I will now. right? So I think my goal is to get Dana to acquire other people instead of Dana getting acquired. But I will say this, like if you get to a point where, because I'm at this point now, like if I get another 20 or 30 units, and that's going to take a while, right? I got too much stuff going on, but you eventually get to a point where like you have to have your own maintenance people, and you need and I think at that point door loop makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. But
Hmm.
I think if you want low, if you want to outsource, and you'll pay a premium for it, but if you want to outsource and you want turnkey, Dana, I think Hemlane's an easy solution. And door loop won't do that for you, right? And I think if you want the cheap solution, yeah, you can do door loop or you can do Hemlane. Door loop's what, 180 or 120 bucks a year. Hemlane's what, $6 a month. I think it's, half dozen, six either way.
Yeah.
But I do think Hemlane has more turnkey service. I think Hemlane's going after you're a small investor and yeah, you want returns, but you're not going to optimize every cent. You're willing to pay a premium to outsource a lot of the pain and suffering. Basically they're trying to replace your local property manager with a virtual solution. And I think they'll get there. I really do. You'll pay, you'll pay less than you'll pay with a local PM. You'll probably get a better service, but if you've got a large volume units and you're going to self-manage, yeah, Duralip's probably a better answer, right? My humble opinion. I do
Okay.
I do hope Dana takes over Pad Split because Jared got me really intrigued. He got me really intrigued. I actually wonder if I'd actually love to try one of my buildings and experiment in that. I'm not there yet, but I'm contemplating it.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. I I know I can say I have seen a not really proliferation, but definitely a lot of different uh you know competition, broadly speaking, amongst the um as a matter of fact, we literally got off the call with Bright Investor a little while ago. So from like the acquisition side, in terms of finding things like PropStream, PropWire, Bright Investor, so on and so forth. So you're seeing more entrants come into that acquisition space.
Yeah.
And then of course, same thing with, property management. So that does make sense that, as you need more capital, either merge or, acquire.
Merge or be merged. That's the answer, right? Yeah.
So, okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, there's this whole dynamic about, like how the companies figure out their growth path, right? And, do they buy or do they get bought, right? And I don't know. I haven't, my expertise is manufacturing, if you're heavy industrial manufacturing, aerospace, like I can tell you all about that market, that industry, and the software as a service, like I just don't know that. But I'm hoping to spend some more time with Dana and I'm trying to do some investigation into some of the other folks who play in that space to understand that space better. Because I do not want to get surprised because what we learned in, a lot of my clients, they use Amazon Web Services, they use Microsoft. What's the Microsoft Cloud? Azure? I think it's Azure.
Azure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would tell you if you ever have to leave a cloud software as a service provider, it is ridiculously painful. Like, it can be like a 6-month process, right?
Jeez.
So I don't want to. Now, that's a company, right? But like, if I had to leave handling tomorrow and move to like door loop, I mean, it would be uncomfortable and difficult. I'd lose all historical traceability. It would be hard, but I could make it work. But if you had like 200 units or 150 units, like that could be really difficult, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, I'm trying to get smarter at this point. So, but
No,
I,
that
but, I,
makes sense.
but I'm pretty happy with Hemlane. I think if I Matt, doesn't Matt thinks I'm probably an idiot, but I think if you're under 30 units, you want something that's low touch. You're not looking to squeeze every penny out of it. You're not dealing in C minus properties with high turnover or like super low dollars. I think Hemlane's an easy solution, but you will outgrow it, right? It's just a matter of when. But
Hey,
it's not
Chris.
tomorrow. Yeah, go ahead.
When it comes to Hemlane, did they provide a solution for ePay, and then do you use them for your income and expense side of your investments, or do you have some separate or better or different solution for
Yeah,
those two aspects?
So they do all my rent payments except for my two seniors who want to pay by check, which is fine. And it doesn't cost the tenants anything. It's awesome. It works very seamlessly. People who are over 50 take a little more time to get them hooked up to it, but it's all good. Anybody who's under 40, I've never had any issues. It's super easy. You give them the option to pay your credit card if they want. It's all that good. Works great. Your other question was,
So, like the books, the
yeah,
vendors and the pay and your
yeah,
expenses,
no,
the property,
Hemlane,
all that.
yep, Hemlane's trying to expand into that. I thank you, but no, thank you. I have QuickBooks, um, and and my bookkeeper can plug into that. It's plugged into my banks. It's my tax guy can get in there. Yeah, no, they're not there yet. They got a
Okay,
long
so
way to go.
when you pay whomever, a contractor, a utilities fee, bill, whatever, you're either cutting checks or you're using a debit card or whatever. Those accounts are synced up with QuickBooks, and
Yep.
then you just basically have your entire, like all of those
Yeah, super
expenses,
simple.
etc.
I pay by a Chase debit card,
Yep.
and I go into QuickBooks once a month, and it takes me 20 minutes, and I what do you call it? I tag the transactions. Oh, this is maintenance. This is tax. This is a insurance payment. And then at the end of the year, I tell my bookkeeper go reconcile everything. And like when I buy properties, those closing sheets and like when I inject funding, like I don't know how to do that in QuickBooks. I don't care to, so I have her take care of that.
Yep.
And then my tax guy logs in and looks at it and figures it out, right?
Nice.
Now, that works great when you have 10, 20, 30 properties. When you're 0 to 5, maybe that's overkill, but food for thought.
And then for 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 the income, because Hemlane, some of these guys are paying ePay over Hemlane. Do you import that into QuickBooks, or do you not even
No,
bother? You just
you don't have
calculate
to
the
because
income separately.
Hemlane is just the highway. It connects your tenant to your bank. So like I just go into my
And then
bank and it's
QuickBooks
like
will
bank's like,
upload that data,
and
and
then
then
QuickBooks uploads the
yeah,
transaction and says, "Hey, you got this thing," and I'm like, "Oh,
right.
that's a rent income, right?" So Hemlane is they're the tenant marketing, tenant screening, tenant communications, maintenance management, payment linkage, and that's all I use them for. And they're very good at that.
Yeah,
By the way,
that's
that's
good.
using their like cheapest $6 a month or whatever the heck it is, like plan, right? They've got
Yeah,
other stuff where they'll basically do full turnkey. I
that
don't need.
sounds that sounds pretty good. One other quick question while we're on the subject, and then anybody else has a different answer that they think is valuable, please chime in. Um, what about 1099s? Utes 1099, all these contractors
Oh
when they
God,
exceed the limit?
Jeffrey, like that's like been the bane of my existence the last 2 years. So long story short is if you go into there's two pieces of that story. When you go into QuickBooks January 1st, they say, "Hey, you made all these payments and you made them through two channels. You either made like Zelle, Venmo, PayPal, and it's right now we do not have to file 1099s for those because that's in court. Um, but all the contractors that I paid more than $600, and by the way, since I got enough properties that like I've got the same handyman. That's like
Right.
it's probably it's my HVAC guy, my electrician, any renovation guys I did, roofing guys. It's probably about a dozen to 18, dozen and a half contractors. Yeah, I do 1099s, and QuickBooks will do it. You just click a button, and the thing I'm not good at is when I add a new contractor, I sometimes forget to ask for their EIN or their social security number, and then
Yep.
I gotta chase it down in January, which sucks. But once you get them in the system, it's pretty easy. And then of course there's the FinCEN stuff, right? If you got an LLC, you got to file that stuff. Don't forget
Right.
that because that just got reinstantiated by the courts that you got to file that by March 6th or 13th. So
And
Yeah,
you've
you
got all
really
this,
have two systems, and those just through Hemlane and QuickBooks, you've got the whole game pretty well
and
in
the
hand.
bank. I mean, you got to have a bank. If you have a bank that hooks up to QuickBooks, like if you got a local, like that's the other thing that helps.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, what was the other question?
all in a single LLC, or how's it structured?
Can you tell me your name? All I see is CMCCU
Yeah.
and E.
Yeah, Charles McCune.
Hi, Charles. I'm Chris. Nice to meet you.
Sorry. So this is
I
my work computer, otherwise it has showed
No,
up.
that's cool. That's cool. I got into real estate through a different investing group, and their strategy was the a master LLC in Wyoming because they
Mhm.
can't go after assets, and then individual LLCs per asset. Although I've kind of violated that. My last deal was three buildings, and I got it all in the same because it's on the same loan, so I got it in the same LLC. So I've got what, six LLCs. And I have a couple assets I bought on 30-year conventional, which means they're in my name. Because in Pennsylvania, you can't transfer from your name into an LLC like you can in the rest of the country without paying a pretty hefty transfer tax penalty. But yeah, so I've got five or six LLCs. Yeah,
Yeah, an LLC and basically an anonymous holding or something.
yeah, I got six
Okay.
LLCs, then the master one in
Yeah.
Wyoming
Okay.
owns all of them.
And I was going to duplicate that, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah, and Matt and Dion would maybe disagree with that. They'd say, hey, you can hold them in one LLC because there is a cost to having that level of asset protection structure and just get it, have insurance. And I'm not an expert to disagree. I mean, I think as long as you have some asset protection structure, LLCs or liability insurance, either way, I think that works, but just have something, right?
So the other part of what I do is an aircraft mechanic, and things
FAA
can,
131, 141 certified, I'm sure.
I'm currently a 135 mechanic,
Nice.
and
I work I work in aerospace supply chain manufacturing, so nice.
right. So as I'm doing 91 um, maintenance or type 43 maintenance, um, there's exposure there too.
Mm.
So
Mm.
and it's growing more than I want it to, and I don't mean it to. And yeah, it's sooner or later it's exposure. Period.
There's probably a conversation with a lot insurance guy around personal versus your portfolio liability, how you get an umbrella policy for that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Own nothing and control everything.
Yeah.
So it's some of these questions are pretty juvenile, but at the same time, as far
No, Charles, they're not. These are the normal questions of like, hey, I've got a day job, I've got liability there, I've got my personal life, I've got liability there. If somebody trips on my staircase, do they take my investment properties? You've got investment properties. How do you? I mean, this is all the normal stuff, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Frank, you tell me. I feel like this is the purpose of this group to answer these questions, right?
Exactly.
We're all
Yeah.
struggling with this stuff, right?
Yes.
So on your commercial leases, what exposure do you have from your tenants' actions?
I have an LLC structure in place, but what I learned from Matt is and I have a personal umbrella liability policy. But what I realized in the last 6 months is that personal liability covers the assets I own personally, but what I need is a LLC liability umbrella. So that's the one piece I'm missing, which I have to get I'll get before the end of the year.
And that is per LLC, or is that?
No, I think you can get an umbrella at the master level that'll cover everything. I'm sure it'll be more than, if you got an individual, but that's I mean, to me, that gives you the ultimate level of protection, right? You've got the LLC structure, which Matt would say they can pierce that, but there's not as much precedent as maybe I think, I think, and then you got the liability. So I think you're doubly covered. And I think that's a safe bet. Now, that comes at a cost. So if you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 units, it may not make sense. But if you're going to try and grow, or you have a different situation where you need extra protection, I think that's not a bad solution. And frankly, if you only have 2, 3, 4 units, it's not the LLC structure isn't too unmanageable. The biggest annoyance I have in the LLC structure is I have a I have to pay my tax guy because my day job, I have a K-1 funky tax situation. Like I have to pay for a regular my personal taxes, and then I have to pay almost the equivalent amount to get my LLC taxes done. So, I mean, and then you're going to have LLC umbrella insurance. So there's a little bit of extra cost there, but it's kind of like trade-off, right? If you're, it's a trade-off, right? And, as you mature the portfolio and you have more profit, it's probably easier to afford that. And maybe that's when you can afford and you want the extra protection. But I think that's the trade-off you have to figure out.
Hey, Chris, I had a question. I don't know if you can hear me okay.
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, great. So you mentioned something about the LLC and or well, rather you have some properties that you did not transfer to the LLC because there's a cost associated to that in where you do business. I have a similar situation, probably the exact same situation. Actually, I have a property in Jersey, and I did not realize it would cost me about $4,000 to $5,000 to transfer to an LLC.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I had already paid for the LLC to get built, and this was like last year, and I've just kind of been holding on to the LLC and in my
Yeah.
head trying to figure out, do I want to incur that cost?
Yeah.
Do I not want to incur that cost? It's a three family, so my point of view was there's a lot of people there. It's a significant part of my
Yep.
income, and maybe I'm gonna pull the trigger. I just don't have the extra funds right now coming out of a renovation. I
Yep.
don't know. What are your thoughts on that? You think eventually you might
Yeah.
do it?
So for the rest of the audience who aren't unfortunate enough to live in Pennsylvania or Jersey, I'll give you in Pennsylvania, in most parts of the country, you can set up an LLC, but if you want 30-year conventional financing through a Freddie Fannie, you can't buy an LLC. You have to buy in your personal name. So you buy in your personal name, and then you sign some legal documentation that basically gives the asset to your LLC, and it parks in the LLC, and it's very happy and it's protected, and life is good. And then when you go to sell it, because to discharge the Freddie Fannie loan, it can't be an LLC. You sign it back to you sign a document that transfers it back to your personal property out of the LLC, and then you sell it, and life is good. Unless you live in a very greedy state like Pennsylvania, and it sounds like Jersey, where they're like, no, that's considered a transfer, so you're going to pay transfer tax. So you're going to buy the asset from the seller. You're going to pay, I don't know, Santiago. I think for us it's like a 4% transfer tax or 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's about right. Yeah, it's actually a little bit higher for me. I think it was. I
so
have about a $500,000
But
loan. It cost me
you're in
about
Jersey. Yeah,
4,000.
everything's more expensive in Jersey, man. Come on, let's be
Yeah,
honest, right? So
yeah,
in
yeah,
PA, in PA, you'll pay a 4% transfer tax. So if I bought a $400,000 asset, that's 16K. And then, oh, you want to transfer it into your LLC, even though it's an LLC entirely owned by you, and the rest of the country says no, that's not considered a real transfer. That's just a adjustment. Pennsylvania will charge you another 4% transfer tax, another 16K. And then when you go to sell it, 4% to transfer it out of the LLC. So now you're 32K in the hole. Um, yeah, we have some problems here in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. So Santiago, my strategy has been I've been ignoring it, hoping it'll go away for the last 2 years. But no, my real solution is I think it's covered in I updated my personal umbrella insurance. I think it's covered under that. That gives me one level.
hmm
But and if I pay the asset down in 2 or 3 years, if I get the asset materially paid down, I may eventually do that. If I'm going to hold it for another 20, I'll probably eventually do it. I'll find a good year when I've got some good profitability and I'll do that. But for now, I'm just beefing up my umbrella policy to kind of give me one level of protection. But ideally, I'd like to get in an LLC. But it kind of sucks, right? Just nothing you can do about it.
Okay, yeah. I think I have liability on it too, so I have that going. And I think eventually maybe next year or
But I would
2
say
years
that I
from
would
now.
say this, man, if you don't have a personal umbrella, like get one and make sure that it covers, in a way it's structured in a way that it covers that asset. I think, and if even,
I've
or
been
if you have a
checking that.
separate umbrella that just covers your investments, but I would get that as a minimum, and then it's your call. And especially if you're higher than 4%, like that's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
I think you and I will probably end up keeping it mostly privately held and just cover it with an umbrella.
Yeah,
And
they charge in Florida too. It's just that those properties mine had already been paid off, or I had like very little
yeah,
loan amount on it, so it was no problem at all. But yeah, I got my liability through steadily .com. So but I'll double check
well,
to make sure that I'm covered the proper way, LLC and personal.
well, your renter's insurance is not an umbrella, so
Right.
and I'm totally out of my depth here. There's actually some guys on these groups, Frank, I think that are from the insurance industry. Like I would talk to them, but I would get a umbrella that would definitely cover that. I have to investigate steadily. I get all my 4 unit under insurance through USAA. It's if it's not the best, it's pretty close and they're really good. But I have to spend some time looking at steadily for some of my other properties.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have both. I think I have renter's insurance. I'm technically uh, renting in Florida, so I have renter's insurance, and then after that, I have a liability policy on it. But yeah, I gotta double check, make sure all that's up to speed still.
Yeah. But
And I
an
decided,
umbrella would be that would be a different policy that I think you'd have to go to a different insurance provider to offer.
no. Thank you.
Hey, while we're on subject of 1099s, I just talked to my mom tonight because I was researching that. That's why I brought it up earlier. And she's had her portfolio for over 20 years now, almost 30 years. So I asked her, it's like, hey, do you run 1099s and all these contractors? You got people doing roofs and all that kind of stuff. You got your Schedule E, blah, blah, blah. No, never done that. Yeah, but you have a tax preparer. I mean, do you know that she doesn't do that? Because it's this lady Lisa who does all her Schedule E's and her taxes every year. Nope, I'm totally sure. Never does any 1099s. So, like, what do you do?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's like filing taxes. If you never file taxes, they can't catch you, maybe until somebody on the other end reports it. But like sooner or later, somebody's going to report it. So I got a note when they started wanting you to file. It was like it was suggested but not required. Like 2 years ago, I started filing the 1099s, and I got it. And I don't know how, because I don't know how they know, right? But I got a note the next year. It said, "Hey, you didn't file on this contractor." And my sense is, I don't know how they tracked it down. I don't know how the enforceability mechanics work, but I got a note that said, "Hey, you didn't file on this supplier, this vendor, and next year, if you don't file a 1099, you're going to have to do withholding on them. You're going to have to withhold their taxes so you can pay us their taxes." And that's when I kind of got religion. I said to my contractor, I said, "Dude, like, you have two choices. You give me your EIN, or I withhold 35% of your payment, or we don't do business anymore."
Yep.
And that seemed to solve it, right?
So is what you would do if you were in her position, or if I was, if you were me, which is the guy that inheriting that, is like, hey, you shouldn't have done it that way, but let's not go back in time. Let's just like start doing it right now
Jeffrey,
and try to act like nothing ever happened in the last 28 years.
Does she have a PM? Does she have a PM or is somebody self-managing?
I mean, I manage her stuff now, but again, I'm just taking it over. I'm not her accountant. I just give her the numbers and then she brings that to her accounting firm but like I don't file Schedule E's. I'm not at that level for her. I have people do that for me, and then she has people do that for her.
I would diligence it. I would be willing to bet you 30% that somebody in the between her bookkeeper, accountant, and tax person, somebody might be filing that for her.
Nope.
But that's fine. But if not, I think sooner or later, if you're paying somebody more than $600 a year, you're going to get flagged. I would talk to your tax preparer about how you do that because I mean it's
so just bring it up with her.
Extra
and then,
$70 a year for me, and a little bit of annoyance, but it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, they're really trying to go after the guys who are cash under the table stuff, right? So
So bottom line is just get with her accountant and say, hey, by the way, and then just see what direction she sends us in.
I mean, actually, Jeffrey, it would be the tax person who signs her return. Say, hey, so let me just get this straight. You're signing her taxes that they're in order, and you know that she's paying contractors more than $600 and you're not filing these. Explain to me how that works and how I'm not going to get notices next year, right? I will say this, they're only really starting to really enforce it like well, the theory is now with this administration, it could all get blown up. Who knows, right?
Jesus.
And the IRS is very distracted, having just gotten 5,000 layoffs last week. So I don't know what'll happen, right?
Well, thank God for non-enforcement. The American way.
Other solution, Jeffrey, is to ask if this can be a new entity, start a new business.
Yeah, I mean, she has a trust, but we can hash that out.
And they can only go back so far.
Hope not. I mean, with the search I did, they said the rumor was the penalty per failed 1099 is like almost 700. So it's like if she had 10 per year for 28 years, I mean, yeah, that's going to add up.
No, Jeffrey, that was only a requirement that started in the last 2-3 years. So
really?
Yeah,
it's new. There's a lot of and it was like that's what I was saying. It was like 2-3 years ago it was optional for a year or two, and now it's kind of required. And then I would say
no wonder she hadn't done it. It's like it wasn't a thing like back when she got the ball rolling and learned her.
It's a recent thing. They're trying to figure out all the cash to cash low dollar stuff. Like you have a contractor coming to your house, you pay them over Zelle, and then there's all this Zelle and Venmo stuff because I probably pay about a third of my contractors through Zelle or Venmo, and Venmo's like, well, they're like, oh, it's Chris's responsibility to file, and I'm like, well, I'm just giving Zelle money. Zelle's paying the contractor because I don't want to file them. Zelle, the government's like, Zelle, you should file, and anyway, that's been in court for 2 years, but it'll sort itself out.
So officially, if you do it, if you use those forms, then you really are not you don't actually have to do that just yet.
That was last year's answer, but I think the court is eventually going to rule that we're going to have to file. The only thing I would caution you and anybody else, if you have an LLC and you haven't done the FinCEN, the basically financial fraud kind of, filing to explain who owns your LLC, the fees on that are like $50 a day.
It's the BOI, right?
Yeah. So so don't screw around with that. File it. I think it was in court. It was overturned. It was renewed. The new deadline is March 14th, I think. But if you don't do that, they can come after you for $50 a day until you file, plus fees. So 6 months, that could be real money. So
you don't have to file that immediately, right?
15 minutes, right? So
you only file that once, and then.
Sorry, Santiago, you're clipping really badly. We're getting every third syllable.
Sorry, is this any better?
Still clipping. You sound like a Cylon.
I'll type it in.
Jeffrey posted the link.
Yeah, I think that's the link.
There's you know, it's funny, Frank, as we're having this conversation, there's a whole like financial defense education discussion around like the 1099s, the FinCEN stuff to make sure you don't get whacked by, because like this stuff wasn't in place 3 years ago, right? It's all new, right? Yeah. Santiago, BIO is done once. You file it, and then assuming the feds don't show up at your doorstep, you're good. So
Do you have to file that every year? It's just once?
no, I think it's just once.
Oh, that's great.
It's the
Registration.
one in ownership, right? It's this unknown LLC that's owned by some drug cartel down in Mexico they're trying to prevent, right?
The other thing, Jeffrey, is one of the things that has changed in the tax laws for the tax preparers in the last 3 or 4 years is the preparers are now responsible instead of you being responsible for their the work that they turn in.
Oh, Charles,
A
that's
lot,
really interesting.
a lot of them have stopped. If you've noticed, a lot of CPA firms are changing hands
Yeah.
or stop doing tax prep. It's because they've transferred the enforcement mechanism at the generation level. We were looking at buying some tax preparation firms.
Hmm.
And as I started asking questions, that's what I figured out.
So Charles, they're kind of crowdsourcing the responsibility, right?
Yeah, they're putting
A
teeth
little
in it.
bit.
A
Yeah.
little bit. Do your own research there, but that's what
Yeah.
I've been figuring out in Illinois as my sister is looking for a CPA firm. And I started doing the numbers on, well, how many tax returns does it take to
Yeah.
replace an income?
I have a good tax guy. So the group that I got involved in, they gave me a tax guy who's actually in the Washington, Oregon area. He's very good. I'm crazy happy with him. But he's not this registered agent that Matt talks about who can
Yep.
also go
An
to
RE.
court to defend you. And RA, yeah. So I love him, and I have no issue staying with him. But if I have the opportunity to jump to Matt's RA, I would probably do that, because I think the tax environment will get more complicated. I think it will get more. I worry it will get more litigious, or maybe said differently, I'm trying to protect myself, and just in case, I'd rather go with somebody who can defend me as opposed to hiring a separate tax attorney if I get audited. And um, that's on the to-do list for next year. So
And if you've never had a tax problem, you haven't lived.
yeah, I haven't, Charles. I'm a virgin, so
Well,
and
it's
I'm not happy about what that
not,
experience entails, right?
it's not fun.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I was going to ask, let's see who. Oh, Esther. Did you finally get someone to help you with your rehab on the last property that you bought there?
Oh, yeah,
Good.
it's almost finished.
Esther, sorry, Chester. Oh, good.
Oh, me?
Yeah, Chester was asking if I was talking to you or him.
Oh, you're talking to me, right? You're asking me.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I did.
that's good. And I know the rents were low when you bought it. What do you think? It was a 2-1, right?
Yeah, the one with the basement. So new kitchen, new bathroom. Let me see. Nice polished hardwood floor. Yeah, and painted basement. So
Okay.
yeah, it's almost finished. I think it should be finished in a couple of days or early next week.
Okay, good. And what do you expect the rent to be when you're ready?
The property manager said 1150.
Great.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that one that we've had in St. Louis forever, they lowered it to 977. It was the last tenant, well, not in the same house, but in the same zip code. The last tenant that moved out was at 1150. So things are definitely dropping there.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
One house is gonna have eviction, I think,
Oh,
in
one of your
Gary.
first two?
Yeah,
Oh,
the larger one, the four bedroom one.
was that the
Yeah.
mom with a bunch of kids?
No, it's a couple with
Oh,
2 kids,
okay.
but doesn't sound like they are they w- doesn't sound like they're organized enough to pay the rent. So I told my property manager, if they don't want to pay the rent, they should move out. And they're like 2.5 months late.
Hmm.
So the court date is March 10. March
Okay.
10, yeah. Yeah,
Did,
my property manager is very knowledgeable how to do it. Yeah.
do you have an
She
idea?
give people grace to pay, but if not, it'll go to court.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Did they give you an idea of what an eviction would cost there?
She said I don't have to pay anything.
Oh,
The tenant will pay everything.
mm,
Yeah, it'll cost like 1,100 for them to pay.
okay. Yeah, we have. They did the two for us in Wisconsin, for example. It was only $450,
Mm.
but I paid that, so it was
Yeah,
$450 per side.
the tenant pay some other fees also, the court and some other fees.
Oh, good.
She give them okay, so the 10th is the court date, and then if they come up with the payment, then they're okay, but we'll see.
And they would go month to month after that,
Yeah,
as
the
far as
other
the lease.
yeah, she said wait for the judge decision.
Okay.
Yeah, I think could be like payment plan.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. It seems in Gary seems very landlord friendly actually.
Yeah, that's good. Because when you bought that, you did some work to it when you bought it, right? That one?
Yeah, I spent 9,000
To get it ready.
paint it inside, little here and there outside, the roof connection, and inside, yeah, just cleaning or moving the cabinet 1 inch, kitchen cabinet 1 inch. I was very determined. Move the kitchen cabinet 1 inch so that it'll fit the stove.
Oh, okay. So what, you had 29 inches and you needed 30?
I don't know.
Yeah, most stoves need 30 inches.
Yeah. So anyway, it fit. They stood it out.
Well, good. Hopefully they
The
didn't adjust
kitchen
the stuff.
cabinet.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
good.
I was also going to check in with Sam. Sam, a few weeks ago, you mentioned that you did get your permit on the property that you were renovating where you added the bedroom and the garage. How is that one coming along?
Yeah, hi, Frank.
Hi.
It's so I'm about to. I was gonna ask this question too.
Do we lose Sam?
I mean, I think you went on mute.
Yeah, you went on mute, Sam.
Yeah, I'm on mute because my son will wake up. But
Oh,
so I think he's all right now. So I was about to say that I have a plumber. I'm about to just I talked to a plumber and electrician Electrician has started. We're good there. He got the permit. Now, the electrician is someone I know, so I used him before. He's a good electrician. He pulled the permit, didn't charge me anything, and then I paid him like a third third of his work, and that was good. And I know him very well. Now the plumber, I'm just about to now send him payment by Zelle, but this plumber just sent me like the invoice, and then and then he and then he wants 20% down before he even do anything, like no permit, no material, and he only sent me sent me his license and his insurance. I looked up his license, and it seems like he's licensed in our state. But I wonder if, let's say, what would you guys do in order to make sure that you're paying the right guy, you're paying for someone who is gonna actually do the work and not run away, I guess, because I don't know him.
Don't
Frank,
spend money with somebody that won't communicate.
Frank, would you need like a quote, like a written quote and I mean, I don't know, like, wouldn't you need something like that before you write a check?
Yeah, I was telling Sam before that, well, here in California anyway, like if I go do a job, I can ask for $1,000 or 10% of the project, whichever is less. So, and we had the discussion before that, as contractors, where we should have lines of credit and, reserves to get projects started so that we don't need to ask the client for more than that. I think it's a little bit different. Sam's in Texas, but I think we also talked about if all the plumbers there do the same thing, if they're going to ask for 20% down, I wonder what the cost of the project would be, Sam, like the total for the whole job. How much is that? And then how much is your 20% deposit going to be?
Yeah, the total job, Frank, is about $6,500, and I think the 20% he came up with like 2,050. So yeah, that's what he wants me to put down. And sorry, I forgot. A couple of meetings ago, probably we touched on that. We talked about it, but believe me, there's a lot of things going on. I forgot.
Yeah, no, that's
Forgot
okay.
what's going on.
That's okay. Yeah, I was just telling Chris that we had been talking about stuff. So 20% is only 1,200 if the whole job is 6,000. So
Then it's 30%. Okay, 30%.
yeah, I don't know if I would do 30%. I would.
A lot.
Yeah, it's a
A
lot.
lot with no trust, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would try to negotiate that or find a different plumber or at least get an estimate from another plumber and see what the other plumber might ask for if you might find a plumber that will go ahead and get started. And at least if he does something, you'll be a little bit more comfortable giving him a deposit. Thank you, Jason. We'll see you soon.
What's the scope of work?
Yeah, Sam, what are they going to do for you?
Yeah, they're adding new bathroom, so the drainage and piping for that bathroom, and then they're gonna move the washer and dryer to a new location. So that's also breaking concrete, along with the first bathroom, breaking concrete for the drainage. Then they're gonna change the piping in the kitchen as well. So that's gonna change because we moved the sink from one side to another, and repipe the house, which is now it's gonna be 2 bathrooms and 1 kitchen like basically repipe everything with the pits, and then provide water and drainage for the new duration of the water heater.
That's quite a bit of work.
Yeah, that seems pretty cheap.
Mhm.
Is that all like detailed in the cell?
I'm sorry?
Is that all in your statement of work?
You have a quote? Because if you
Yeah,
don't have a quote or a contract, you can't enforce it, right?
yeah, that's all included. He sent me that quote, and he put down like, I think he put down 30% to start, or I think, and then when it's done, rough is done is at
Is it like
80%,
a
but it's
generic?
all the details are there.
Details are there. Okay.
Yeah,
And
and
I
it,
got his,
I
I
always
got
want to
his,
do a background check on them. Background and credit check on them.
yeah, that might be a good idea.
Just sounds like a lot to put down for no work. Even like I don't know, cost of materials doesn't seem like it should cost that much.
yeah, or at
No,
least enough materials to get started, right?
yeah, yeah. No, um, I guess, how do I do a background and credit check? How do you guys do that?
Maybe Frank might know.
Well, California again is a little bit different, but um, when you go to the contractor state license board, it will show if there are any outstanding like cases against the contractor, um, any lawsuits or anything like that. I don't know about the credit part. Um, they do have, let's see. No, I think that's about it. But also here, I'm a member of the Better Business Bureau as well, so they have some information on me too. Um, and like our rating is an A plus. I guess that, I mean, if the contractor's not an A or a B rating, I don't know why they would want to be on there, but you might want to check. So you could check the Better Business Bureau or the Contractors License Board and ask them for different ways to like do a background check on the contractor or a credit check, or if that's even common practice in your area.
Also, how do you check on their bond and their insurance?
That would be, well, the contractor, like I can give my customers proof of my insurance, like a certificate of insurance, that shows like how much I'm insured for and things like that. And then, what else did you ask?
The bond.
Oh yeah, the bond information should be on the license along with the license information. So to make sure the contractor's licensed and bonded. And I haven't really.
Bond is good. If you win a lawsuit against them, you just collect from the bond.
Yeah, the bond is supposed to also be some money set aside to hire someone to finish the project as well. Yeah, I was telling Sam over all these years I've been doing this, and nobody has ever really checked my license. So
the problem is people don't know.
You're just so trustworthy, Frank.
Maybe so.
Yeah, it seems like trustworthy, so no need.
I'm glad. And I really do try to, all of our work, or I would say 95% of our work comes from referrals. So we do have a good, I guess our reputation precedes us in that manner, but.
And that's great. I guess on the insurance part, he sent me his insurance, but I think like it may be different by state. But in here in Texas, the way if I call that insurance company, they are not gonna respond to me unless he is on the phone with me or that he add me as a holder, a license, insurance holder or certificate holder. And
Additional
so,
insured, yeah.
yeah. And so, is that the same with you? Like, how do we verify that their insurance? You have to just do these steps to verify it, right?
Well, again, for me, if they ask for proof of insurance, just get a hold of my insurance provider, and they'll send a certificate right over to the customer via email, typically, and that's how. I've only had one person ever do that, so that's how we did it. Yeah.
It's pretty common. I work in procurement in my day job, and it's pretty common. Like, when we make a relationship with the vendor, we're like, hey, like, we need your insurance policy. We're like, oh yeah, call this insurance company. And it's very common for commercial insurance providers to know they have to provide their customers, their customers, with the insurance policy. It's not that uncommon.
It should be smooth. Now this guy is okay. Yeah, I need to talk to him about it and get a hold of it. But yeah, I got the quote. I got his license. I verify his license. He also sent me his driver license to compare his name on the driver license with his name on the license itself.
But
He sent
Sam,
me
who do you know anybody who's done work for him? I mean, have you talked to other customers of his? Because if you haven't done
talked to
that,
one.
okay.
I talked
But
to one.
my humble opinion, like, like if you know the one, that's cool. If the one was like a cold reference, maybe get one or two others and just probe. Like, I, it's just dicey. Like a bad contractor can really screw you up depending on the size of the deal, or if it delays you. And I don't know, just food for thought.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I asked him for 3. He sent me 1, and that was even hard to get. I'm like, well, you've been doing this for a while, and I'd like to talk to many, but I think so. I think you're. I mean, yeah, that's something I need to as well work on.
It usually
But I
means
guess
something.
what is it?
If your gut is bothering you about this, keep looking. It's every time I had to pull a permit, or actually every time a homeowner pulled a permit for me to build a pool, I had to get bonding and insurance in that community for the southwest suburbs of Chicago, which meant a lot of it, and certificates of insurance. In order for them to get the permit, they had to have my name on the permit as the contractor. This should be like giving your phone number out.
Wise counsel. If you have any, there's a great phrase in the movie Heat: when there's doubt, there is no doubt. If your gut's telling you to question it, find somebody else, or at least explore their options before you commit, right?
Yeah, no,
you're going to be micromanaging his work, and it's going to be a bad relationship.
Yeah, okay. I guess the worst case scenario is like, I since he sent me that quote is basically, and he has a license, is basically let's say he get the money and doesn't show up. Worst case scenario is basically I have to follow him and sue him, right? That's the worst case scenario.
No, the worst case scenario is he damages your property beyond the scope that the work originally encompassed. So if there's a foundation or other concrete that he's breaking up and it causes additional damage and he doesn't have insurance or the ability to fix it, you could just compound the problem.
But okay, so the insurance is a big part. But he also, I checked the state. He is licensed. So does that mean, does that tell verification of his license is that a good thing or doesn't mean much?
You don't know the licensing procedure as a plumber. As an aircraft mechanic, I got licensed years ago, and it's one license that I keep. That was one certificate number that I keep reusing. It doesn't necessarily mean any status of the business or experience. It just means that at some point in time, I met the qualifications and knowledge to be able to pass the test. for my instance. I don't know about the plumber.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you, guys.
Question is he insured today and also bonded today? The bond is also very important.
Yeah, both. They should kind of work side by side. I think if your bond is not current, it affects your license, at least here again. So,
Well, thank you, guys. I'm gonna follow up on that. I do have another question. If anyone knows any good cameras, like does anyone use cameras that are operated, run by internet and saves saves pictures or
Yeah.
videos
I use
online?
on my commercial setups, I have like there's a bunch of commercial things, but like before when they were in construction and for like the residentials, I use Blink because I can do a $99 a year subscription. I can have cameras at a bunch of different. Obviously, you have to have internet access, but I've had decent luck with Blink. It's not too bad.
So you said you do need internet access, right?
Well,
Yeah.
they
You
can
need
source
internet
or
access and
have
you pay them $99 a year.
well, yeah. So I think if you don't have internet access, you need something that has local storage. And I've not really dug into that too deeply, but if you have internet access, you can do something like Amazon's Blink cameras. The cameras are cheap, they're pretty good. They have wireless ones that don't need any power. They're motion activated. You change batteries once or twice a year. And they have powered ones that'll plug into like, an exterior light socket or other stuff or plug in on the interior, and they work pretty well. I had an empty site, this commercial unit, and I was moonlighting doing some Bitcoin mining on the inside to keep the unit warm because I lost my heating system. And that worked for a year. Worked pretty well. But I mean, the good news is there's a lot of options, but Amazon Blink's a pretty decent option. So
yeah,
Okay.
I haven't tried it yet, but I got a small camera just to do videos for the channel, and it came with a really like a micro SD card, and it also has Wi-Fi capability. So I think when you're doing your videos, it can store it on the micro SD card, and then once you get to your Wi-Fi, you can transfer it to like your laptop or your phone or anything else that's connected to it. That one it's really tiny. It came with like the thing that you mount on your chest, and you can have the camera right in front of you. It has the thing you put on your head with the camera right in front if you're doing like a
like a
hands-on.
GoPro.
Yeah, like a GoPro. It's a different brand, but like a GoPro, yeah. And that one was only like $65.
Yeah, that's another option. I I think I prefer, because you never know what's gonna happen, and because these cameras have this, when they have the backup info, where they save their data online in a cloud or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a bit, it's a little safer, because it uses a third party, so no matter what happens at the property, that information is saved on that side, and so you can retrieve it, or get it back, versus the SD card. But it's way more expensive. So because you have to have internet, you have to have the subscription, and I was gonna ask, like, for Blink cameras, like, what if, like, the one will give you the information, like one will give you the one view, but can you add two for that subscription, or
Yeah.
you're gonna have
So
to pay
yeah.
twice, I guess, and do all that?
So let me break your problem down a little bit. So question one is internet access. I started by trying to do my own internet access because I'm sub-metering, right? So I have these meters on electricity and water in some of the units, and I want to monitor it. I want to be able to, like, I get the electric bill. I want to be able to go check the website, pull down the data, figure out what what each tenant owes, and then send them a bill, right? So, I was able to get the internet costs down to $15 a month, and there's a couple of places, different ways to do that, but that's one. So that's the internet option. But what I eventually realized was, I just went to one of the tenants and I says, "Hey, I've got because I was monitoring water. I've got a water leakage monitor in the basement. Can I just get your Wi-Fi code and tap into that?" Yeah, no problem, right? If you got a good relationship with your tenant, every tenant has Wi-Fi, no problem, right? Like, so you can tap into your tenant's Wi-Fi if you ask them nicely, explain like, "Hey, I'm going to do it for security monitoring or, leakage monitoring or whatever." And so now I got the $15 option, but I can skip that. And then I think my best recollection is the $99 uh, Amazon Blink subscription fee, which includes cloud storage, is I'm not sure if it's unlimited, but I'm not aware of a camera limit. So I was using it for multiple sites. So, I mean, I had 1 or 2 cameras per site. So, what, 5 to 7 cameras total? So, something to think about.
Yeah, I used Blink at one of my rentals. But it does need internet. It actually needs Wi-Fi. It needs good Wi-Fi. So you got to make sure your Wi-Fi goes far enough for the cameras
Yeah,
to work.
totally.
Um, it's a good setup for temporary measures, not permanent. And yeah, you can just go like these days. You can just get like the internet over 5G, like T-Mobile or Verizon. Usually, like T-Mobile is good,
Yeah.
and that's month
That
to month. You can just pay month to month for the internet
yeah.
there.
That was my solution. The T-Mobile hotspot, I spent $60 to buy the widget, and I spent $15 a month. And I mean, you're not going to be streaming real-time video, 8 hours a day, but like for a security camera or like low, you know, exigent data circumstances, it's fine.
What sub-meter did you use, Chris?
I've got 2 brands I use. One of them just changed their strategy. So EKM metering is the one I recommend. Um, there's another one that's simpler and better, but they stopped offering their solution. So I'm trying to diligence if that's still available or not. But yeah, EKM metering is what I have for electric and water on most of my units where I need it, which is only like half. But I'm happy with them. It's just it's a more technical product. The other company had a very simple product that was like, my wife's a special ed teacher and she's not an engineer, so she could use it. Unfortunately, they seem to have gotten out of that business, but Ecamm's a really good product. Like, nothing bad to say about them. Just, you gotta setup's a little more complex.
This is totally off subject, but I've never bought a foreclosure and I'm looking at one. Anything I need to know outside the normal?
I'm not sure of anyone in our group that has purchased a foreclosure.
Because there's a high chance I'd take it just for the ground.
Uh-huh.
Just like with Sam's scenario, I don't want to buy myself a problem by making a poor decision.
Charles, it's always been scary for me because I don't understand the diligence process to know how do you make sure there's no liens or other things when you buy it. So I'm not smart on that. So sorry.
Would you be doing that through an agent or with an agent? Because
Yeah, there's an agent involved, there's a bank involved, so there'll be a title search and some of the normal stuff.
There is a website you can go to get the title information on the owner and the property. Let me look it up.
Taking notes.
Oh, Pro Title USA.
Say again.
Pro Title USA.
Pro title.
Yeah, ProTitleUSA.com.
Thank you very much. I know we've
Yeah,
done.
if you can't get an account, I can run the search for you.
Okay.
I mean, it's under $100.
Okay. Yeah. There's some ones locally we use, but we'll see what we can do there. So I haven't looked at the property yet. I don't know if it'll be available by the time I get home. Yep. Thank you very much, Mr. Chester. So, one of the problems I'm solving for is someplace a bit warmer, to be in the winter, but I don't want to carry it full boat. So it's my kid in her horse habit, and there's horse trails nearby and room for a corral and
Nice.
room to keep a tenant in place if the house is salvageable. So I think it's county water with septic, and I need to verify how rocky the soil is. And if it looks like it's going to perk test, if I have to put a new septic in. It's one of those things, if I've got time to tackle it, I'll be interested.
What do you think, Frank?
Yeah.
Mute button got you, Frank.
I still got to learn how to work this stuff. Yeah, I was just going to say thank you, everybody. I think we'll probably end it there. I don't usually have early projects, but tomorrow I have to get out early, get back on the job site. Luckily, it's easy stuff. I'm only painting, so. But out here where we're at, traffic starts early, so I'd like to get on the road a little bit before 6, and then go have coffee and wait for 8 o'clock to start working. So
Wait for the legal work hours.
yeah, we can't make noise. It's in a townhouse development, so they're pretty
Oh, yeah, they got quiet hours.
pretty strict on their rules. Yeah, they
Frank, what do you
even.
paint? Sorry.
I was just going to say we're just doing an interior on a 2-story townhouse.
Frank, what
But
are you painting with? Are you following Matt's what is it? Gibson, Gibeon,
the Sherwin-Williams stuff? No.
Glidden or whatever.
Yeah, he does Sherwin-Williams. On this one, the customer was using Dunn and Edwards. Have you guys ever used it?
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time, but I just ended up. I like the bear paint myself, so I got the color matched at Home Depot, and we picked it up there. And actually, it's half the cost. They were quoting $73 a gallon for interior
Yeah.
eggshell, and
That's like I think Matt uses Benjamin Moore, and it's great paint, but God, it's expensive. Holy cow!
That's just as bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
Benjamin Moore. They do have some really pretty colors, but you pay for it. And I always let my clients know if they want to buy the paint, that's great. I'll use it. But I've had really great results with the mid-grade Behr, not the lower grade stuff, but they have the one that's labeled paint and primer.
Yeah.
So that's what we're using on this one. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question, Chris?
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
what material do you use for the shower surround?
Esther, that's one area I've wimped out on, and I make my contractors pick it.
Oh,
I
okay.
I'm generally doing my general requirement is a high quality fiberglass surround. I must have a shower pan. It has to be fiberglass. I know some contractors have said there's now some new like Korean like marble like stone ones. I haven't tried those because I inherited a unit that they didn't use a shower pan, and after 2 years I started having leaks. So shower pan is the most important part. And yeah, and the only other requirement I have is the shower stalls can't be 24 by 24. They have to be at least 36 or larger by 24 so that people can actually move around in. But
Oh, you have the top, the wall. I've questioned the wall kind of brown from your listing. Is brown color. Do you happen to know?
oh yeah, okay, Esther, sorry, yeah. I have that. That was a really interesting thing my contractor did. He found this like, gosh, what is it? It's like a PVC paneling that he put in the shower in that link I put. It looks really nice. They used some other stuff outside. It was like a AZAC, but it looked like natural unfinished wood. I haven't gone back to them to ask where they got that, but it's really cool looking. I'd love to do more of that. I just haven't had a chance to dig into it.
Did he buy it or he buy or it
He
like a
bought it.
kit?
He
He
bought it.
bought it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. I bought a unit. So Lancaster, a realtor who does short-term rentals, bought a unit, a 4 unit, and gutted it down to the studs. And even though permitting wasn't entirely approved, she started doing it, and the township passed a ordinance that said no more STRs. So I bought it from her like mid-flip, but her dad was the contractor, and I used him, and he was actually really good. So he did that, and I've started to use him for other stuff. So I'll ask him because I thought that was really cool looking.
Yeah, look good. Because I was looking for top surround. I ended up bought from Home Depot.
Yeah, and
This
the
is
white
plain one.
fiberglass stuff is just super boring, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
sucks,
just
right?
right.
So, yeah.
And then the above the stove is that microwave?
Yeah, that I'm proud of, Esther. So because they're all that building that I posted a link on is all one bedrooms. A couple of the units I did 18-inch stoves, and yeah, I found 18-inch microwaves.
Oh,
No,
okay.
sorry, 24-inch stoves and 24-inch microwaves. Yeah, it's a microwave.
And then is it vented out to outside or?
No, I think in that building everything is because it's electric. So in our area, it's a little fuzzy, but in our area, if you do electric, you don't have to vent to outside. You can just recirculate vent.
Oh, okay.
If you do gas, now they don't enforce it. Like if I'm modifying a unit, they're not going to make me add an exterior vent. But I will say this: I've generally been transitioning most of my units. I've been pivoting. If I had gas, I've generally been pivoting to electric. Not every unit, but like almost all, because I just see I got to run electric anyway. I want a dishwasher. In some cases, I'm adding a washer dryer. Yeah, it's just a hassle. So I've generally been migrating to electric. It's a cheaper replacement, and I can do the replacement myself, or or my maintenance guy can do it for less cost than a gas. Anytime we touch gas, it makes me nervous, and I want somebody who's licensed to do it. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
How about bidets? Anybody use bidets?
You missed that meeting a few weeks ago. It was all the rage. I I I don't know if anybody said they use them in their rentals because they were saying that the kids might use them for sprinklers.
Fountains, right? Right, Frank? Fountains.
Yeah. The reason I ask is we're on septic systems, and the less toilet paper, the better.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, except for the kids. Yeah, I know.
Well, but Frank, but my bigger issue hasn't been kids. It's been the adults using the quote flushable wipes, right? That's killed me on two units, right?
Yeah. You got to be really careful. We're here at our primary. We're on septic as well. I wouldn't buy a rental on a septic system myself, but Dion swears by them. He would rather buy septic than city sewer.
Yeah.
Is there a reasoning?
He was saying mostly for the expense. I guess the city gets you good when they do hook you up to their system, and it's an ongoing fee. So that's his big reason.
Yeah.
It's like what's the term, like CEUs or some like residential unit occupancy rate, like count, right? How many people are going to be using a septic, and they kind of tag you for that, right? And then that drives your quarterly septic bill, water septic bill.
Yeah, we've had you're right. I forget what the units are called, but how many sinks are in the house, how many toilets are in the house, and then they tax you that way. The more you have, the more you pay. Yeah. Yeah, Chester had some recent issues, some recent plumbing issues.
Yeah, it was a headache.
Chester, I got a picture to send you. I'll see if I can put it in the chat. Imagine not only were they using flushable wipes, but they were tucking hypodermic needles in the middle of the wipes because they're juicing up with steroids. Yeah. Here's a picture of it. Hold on, I'm gonna send it. I'll put it in the chat. Hold on. That was $2,000 and 5 days of my time sorting all that shit out.
Good God. Oh. And we wonder why these are the same tenants who they had properties of their own. Oh gosh.
Oh, good.
They own properties of their own, or they were.
If they had properties of their own and they didn't have other people like saying, don't do things like flush, quote unquote, flushable wipes or tampons or hypodermic needles. Like,
but
the
Chester,
stuff that we know.
I know, but I gotta say this, like the tenants who did that, the flushable wipes, not the hypodermic, right? They're really good tenants, right? What's going on? They're really good tenants. Like they're like, hey, like it says flushable on the marketing material that came from Procter and Gamble, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like,
so Procter and Gamble must be trying to corner the plumbing market. They're like, we'll create a problem and then we'll just go buy up all the plumbing companies.
I know. But it's like I was like, guys, look, I appreciate it. It's really kind of a marketing scam. It's not really flushable, right? And then once I heard that, I'm like, oh, got it, right? Because I remember I went in did a tour of the unit, and I was like, no toilet paper in here. That's interesting. I didn't think anything of it. And then we started having these massive backups, and I was like, So.
Well, and if they're using steroids, you probably don't want to mess with them.
Different tenant. That's the guy upstairs, right? That's the guy upstairs. So I learned that if you have tall ceilings, when the guy in the second floor flushes his toilet, the water coming down that pipe, that 4-inch, like, I don't know, Frank, you probably know better than I do, like that 4-inch, like, DWV pipe. Oh, here it is.
Sounds like a river.
Well, but it picks up a lot of energy, and if it hits a blockage in the pipe below due to unflushed wipes, it'll go back 2 feet and blow out the toilet on the ground floor. Like
What?
it was, oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was really interesting. Physics works, right? Here, I found the picture. Hold on, let me export it. Put it in the post.
Wow. That is scary. That's scary.
Well, there's no
I had to use
backflow valve.
I had to use some serious engineering knowledge to kind of like, even the plumbing guys like, dude, I don't know, like I don't want to touch this one. I don't know. Like it's like, and I'm like, all right, man, I'll fair enough. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can paste this puppy. Ah, there we go. This is what the plumber showed me. You guys see this in the chat?
Oh, yuck.
A crap load of flushable wipes wrapped around a hypodermic needle with a slightly bent tip. I was like,
Oh,
WTF,
come
man.
on.
WTF. Are you effing kidding me? So I had to send notes to the tenants because I wanted to be so I said, hey, here's what we found. Maybe I'd guess, maybe it was you. We're not gonna ask. But I've separated the plumbing lines because the lines were kind of merged, so you couldn't tell who was doing it. I was like, to prevent this from happening again, because this guy upstairs was flushing this crap and was blowing out the toilets downstairs because they were also. So anyway, I was like, we separated all the lines into the trunk. So now, if we have any more problems, we'll know exactly who did it. Never had another problem. Never had another problem. That was 18 months ago. So. But yeah, this was a surprise. This is something I'd never seen before. So in a pipe.
That's
That
bad.
ought to be a casual mention on the walkthrough.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah.
Is it me, or do tenants, like, some of them intentionally, but most unintentionally, try their landlords to see what they can get away
They
with?
do. They do. I had somebody just literally 2 weeks ago, like, like the heat, it's a triplex and they're all in a common radiator system with one
Mhm.
thermostat, right? Because I haven't had a chance to split the, one guy's like, like the heat's so bad and I'm so hot and you got to fix this. And I got the HVAC guy. He's like, I'm like, the furnace works. The thermostat might be old. We replace that. I think he was angling for me to put split systems in. And I'm like, um, if the heat system's that bad, I might have to replace radiators, which means, it's 50-year-old radiators. I'm gonna have to replace piping. So, gosh, I might actually have to like empty the unit. I'm gonna have so I can, really rip out the walls. Because as soon as you do a 50-year-old radiator and you try and unwire it or replace it, you'll never. Odds are you could have issues hooking it back up. You could have, stuff could break. So I was like, guys, like if I have to like replace, if you're saying that the radiators are broken or blocked and I have to replace them, I said that's fine, but I may have to like evacuate the unit, which means you guys will have to move out. And at that point, I might as well renovate it, and then I'll, it'll have a different rent profile. And then, I did, the radiator had a little bit of a minor heating issue. The thermostat might have been a little wonky, so I replaced it with a modern digital one. And I made them talk to each other to say, guys, hey, gal in the middle of the unit, you can't put it at 77 and not expect your neighbor to like boil out, right? You got guys, let's agree we're going to keep the thermostat at 68 or 70, and that's it. And if there's problems, you let me know. You don't like jack it up or jack it down. And suddenly all the complaints went away. That was 2 weeks ago. So
Go figure, huh?
go figure. It's interesting. It's a good lesson in people management. So sorry, Frank.
That's okay. That's okay. Now we're really going to end it.
See everybody. Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
guys.
night.
Charles.
I
Good night,
appreciate
guys.
Thanks, Sam.
Good
I
night,
appreciate
everybody.
you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Esther.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody.